The Hulk isn't joking when he calls himself the strongest one there is. Being a gamma-radiated supergiant literally powered by his rage, there are very little limits on the Hulk's abilities and virtually no one he can't smash to oblivion. However, don't take that to mean that Bruce Banner's life has at all been easy. In fact, there are times where the Jade Giant even outpaces Daredevil and Spider-Man for Marvel's biggest sad sack superhero award. And trust me, that thing does exist. I'm Ewan, you're watching What Culture Comics, and here are the 10 worst things that ever happened to the Hulk. Number 10. Killed by Thanos, the Infinity Gauntlet. For as short as Hulk's fight against Thanos was in Infinity War, it was arguably a lot shorter in the original comic. In the original Infinity Gauntlet series, Adam Warlock brings together a ragtag group of heroes to take on Thanos, who already has all of the Infinity Gems and has already wiped out half the universe with a snap of his fingers. As you can imagine, Warlock in no way expects them to survive, just to merely buy time for him to steal the gauntlet from Thanos while he's busy brutally killing all of the other heroes. Fortunately, Hulk and the heroes do get some licks in when Thanos turns off his god powers to show his lady love death that he can beat them all without it. But when he very nearly loses the gauntlet, he realizes how idiotic that was and powers back up to maximum. Of all the horrific deaths Thanos subjects the heroes to, the Hulk's is arguably tame, just having his throat crushed in his grip, but it's still nasty all the same. Number 9. Killed by Deadpool. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. In an alternate but so very similar version of the main Marvel Universe, Deadpool suddenly hears a new voice in his head. The voice knows things that, upon learning, Deadpool decides can have only one sane response: kill everyone. Now, you would think this crusade would have certain insurmountable obstacles, one of which being, of course, the Hulk. And sure enough, the Hulk makes quick work of Wade when he comes calling, ripping him apart piece by piece until he seems to stop regenerating and his chatterbox of a head sits silently on the ground. Satisfied with a good limb tearing done well, Hulk finds a nice cave somewhere and takes a nap. And then Deadpool finds him. See, Deadpool knew that fighting the Hulk would not end well, but Bruce Banner, whom the Hulk turns back into when he sleeps, that's another matter. Bruce has just enough time to wake up and see Deadpool looming over him before he gets his bloody head chopped off. Ouch. Number 8. Lost Jarella. Hulk 205. Jarella was the ruler of a civilization that existed purely within the confines of the microverse, which Hulk visited during one of his many adventures. When the Hulk showed up, Jarella had her court wizards fuse his and Banner's minds together so that they could communicate, and the two soon fell in love. Jarella even decides to take a holiday from her home to visit the Hulk's world. However, when the villain of the week unleashes a robot on the city, Jarella is caught by some falling rubble when she pushes a helpless kid out of the way. Hulk takes her to Doc Samson, the only doctor Hulk actually trusts, but sadly, it's all but too late for her. Enraged, Hulk stomps up to Doctor Strange for some magical assistance, but when that doesn't work, Strange just lets him go to town on the Sanctum Sanctorum, knowing that he just needs to let his friend vent his emotions the only way he knows how. Number 7. Turned into a zombie. Marvel zombies. When a zombie outbreak ravages the Marvel Universe, those infected don't become your average run-of-the-mill zombies. Those infected actually retain their intelligence, but lose all sense of morality in the face of a never-ending hunger for the flesh of the living that they cannot control or silence. Obviously, when the Hulk gets infected, he stays the Hulk permanently, as being constantly hungry can make one rather angry. At some point, he doesn't even hear Bruce anymore, as he gobbles up humans left, right, and even chows down on Galactus, joining his fellow Avengers and becoming the new Devourers of Worlds. Sounds like a pretty sweet deal for the Hulk all in all, except that the hunger never goes away. Remember that they only do any of this to sate the hunger, so the Hulk has to live with a hunger that can never be satisfied, even if he eats everything. Number 6. Survived the end of the world. Hulk the End. Ever since the creation of nuclear weaponry, fiction has become increasingly curious/worried about what the world would look like should the absolute worst case scenario happen. Well, it was only a matter of time before Marvel's walking, talking sci-fi horror story, The Hulk, would get to throw his 2 cents into the ring of speculation. And it isn't pretty. It makes sense that should the nuclear holocaust occur, the Hulk would be one of, if not the only survivor of the human race, wandering around around the desolate land with nothing to do and no one to talk to, save for the giant cockroaches that come by and feast on him, only for him to regenerate hours later and do it all over again. By the end of the story, Bruce and the Hulk have a heart-to-heart, Bruce begging him to come with him to the other side. But even after everything, the Hulk just wants to be left alone, so Bruce gives him what he wants, and the Hulk finally is completely, utterly alone. The only one there is. Number 5. Sent to Hell, Immortal Hulk. You know Bruce Banner's life is a conga line of abject misery when literally going to hell just barely breaks the top 5. Throughout the first 13 issues of Al Ewing and Joe Bennett's sci-fi horror masterstroke, The Immortal Hulk, Bruce Banner, newly revived after a failed test to see if he could actually die, has been slowly uncovering the secret behind a mysterious green door that keeps on popping up whenever he runs across anything having to do with gamma radiation. Well, in issue 10, we finally get to find out what exactly it is, and like everything else in Immortal Hulk, the answer is both compelling and downright horrific. Simply put, it's hell, like the actual hell, or at least some version of it. In between Ewing's discussion on the nature of God through the lens of Hebrew philosophy, we get to see the Hulk and Bruce separately confront every one of their worst demons, all the people they've lost along the way, the mistakes they've made, and so much worse that I don't want to spoil. Sure, Bruce technically comes out stronger, or at the very least wiser for the experience, but going to hell is never a 100% positive experience, and the stuff he sees while down there definitely earns it a spot on this list. Number 4. Becoming the Hulk at all, The Incredible Hulk number 1. This entry kinda had to be this high on the list, seeing as how a lot of this wouldn't have even happened if Bruce Banner hadn't become the Hulk in the first place. Marvel's whole creative thesis, spearheaded by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in the 1960s, when they got serious about making superheroes, was to make their powers, if anything, a hindrance on their lives, or to give them some real-world problems that their powers either didn't affect or made even worse. Bruce Banner, in turn, was a science experiment gone wrong, where the powers gained by the accident in question, getting caught in a blast of gamma radiation while trying to save Rick Jones, caused him to develop a separate personality that controls said powers, which subsequently leads to a life on the run from his would-be father-in-law and the full might of the US military, plus a big brain guy and other gamma monsters to deal with. Not fun. Number 3. Shot into space, Planet Hulk. When the Hulk levels Las Vegas, his friends in the Illuminati end up deciding that, since they can't permanently cure the Hulk and killing their friend is out of the question, as well as just being impossible anyway, shooting him into space to a distant, peaceful world where nothing will anger or hurt him is the only possible solution. However, the Hulk wakes up mid-trip and, of course, wrecks the ship, causing it to fall off course through a wormhole that takes him to the other side of the universe. Specifically, it takes him to the planet Sakaar, a barbarian world ruled by the tyrannical Red King. Oh, and everything, and I do mean everything, is as strong as the Hulk due to the planet's unique environmental conditions. The Hulk and Bruce have to merge their two personalities for the time being just so that they can survive, because turning into fragile Bruce Banner on Sakaar is just out of the question. Number 2. Losing his wife and children, also Planet Hulk. One of the most interesting things Planet Hulk added to the Hulk mythos was Sarah, one of the Red King's most powerful warriors, who turned on the tyrant when she learned the truth behind his manipulations and when his attempts to destroy the Hulk grew too brutal. After Hulk becomes the new ruler, the Green King as it were, he took a liking to and proceeded to court Sarah, which she eagerly reciprocated. She even expressed love for Bruce when Hulk turned back into him as a sign of trust towards his wife. Hulk's life was actually looking pretty good, until one of his warbound sabotaged the engine of the ship that brought Hulk here, causing the highly volatile fuel cells inside to explode with enough force to level the entire capital city, killing thousands as a result, including Sarah and seemingly the Hulk's 2 unborn children with her. Sure, we learn at the end of World War Hulk that his children actually survived in the womb of their mother and were later birthed from the rubble of Sakaar, but that's a whole other story for another time. And number 1. Losing his mother, The Incredible Hulk number 377. The gamma radiation may have given the Hulk powers, but one question asked by casual Hulk fans is why the Hulk is a rage monster Bruce has zero control over, while his cousin Jen has full control over her own Hulk abilities, to the point where she never feels the need to change back into her original form. Well, simply put, Bruce has a lot of trauma. Dissociative identity disorder is one of the most complex and hard to truly comprehend mental mental disorders out there, but over the years, the Hulk comics have established that Bruce most certainly has it, and it all came from one event: watching his father Brian brutally murder his mother Rebecca right in front of him. An already rocky relationship became downright abusive once Bruce was born, to the point where Rebecca tried to run away in the night. But Brian intercepted the two on their way to the car, grabbed Rebecca, and beat her face into the driveway until she died, right in front of their son. The classic Hulk, known as the big guy by his fellow Hulk personalities, represents all the repressed rage of that little boy watching his father take away his loving mother right before his eyes. And well, those were the 10 worst things that ever happened to the Hulk. Know of any other misfortunes to have befallen the not-so-jolly Green Giant? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're down there, it would be ace if you could Hulk smash that like button and subscribe to What Culture Comics so you don't miss another upload going forward. That's all for now though, take care, and I will see you soon.